LA Kings fans talk about the team landing a big-time free agent. We're talking Kings broadcasters. And unfortunately, we have an injury scare to talk about as well. That is all coming up on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Kings fans, and welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show going into its 20th year, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Now, we do have a fan feedback show for you, as we typically do to close out every week. But we unfortunately have some breaking news to tell you about. If you did not see on social media, it is being reported by the guys over at mayorsmanor.com that Cory Perry, the new Kings forward, veteran NHL player, suffered what appears to be a serious injury in skating today. Now, if you're like my buddy Doug, the Ducks fan, who saw this news and texted me, and he's like, "There is training camp open?" No, training camp has not opened yet. I did post about this on social media on Thursday, but I realized that not all of you are on social media, and maybe you're better off for it. But the LA Kings have not officially opened a training camp yet. They will do so reportedly sometime late next week or early the following week. But they are doing what a lot of teams refer to as a captain's skate. That's when the captain of the team and other leadership players, most likely Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, guys like that, will get the players together and they will go through basically kind of like scrimmages on their own, skating on their own. They don't do a lot of drills and things like that, but they will kind of just have a little, kind of inter squad game amongst themselves. Everybody's out there, goalies, all that, and just kind of getting the legs moving for the start of training camp. And the Kings have been doing this past week. It was, all of the players were out there, I think, except Joel Armia, but everybody else was out there, and that included Cory Perry. I was not out there on Friday, and that's apparently when this injury happened. No word. Apparently this was not witnessed by anybody at mayorsmanor.com, but the result afterwards, apparently they heard about. He went down on the ice, did Cory Perry, suffered some kind of a lower body injury, leg, knee, ankle. And the worst part of this is he had to be taken in a wheelchair back into the training room to be examined. And that's all we know at this point as we are recording the show 9 p.m. on Friday night. So clearly this sounds very bad. Fingers crossed that it isn't. But anytime a player has to be put in a wheelchair to be taken into the training room, I'm no doctor, but that seems very serious to me that he couldn't put any weight whatsoever on his leg. So fingers crossed that this was all precautionary, that it's not as worse. It's not as bad as it appears to be. But I think we're all justified in being very concerned about this. And I know I've somewhat joked about Cory Perry and joining the Kings and, maybe fans booing him early on. I was actually going to mention seeing Perry out there skating with Anze Kopitar. It didn't make me feel sick. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, maybe I'm going to get used to this. Maybe I'll eventually be okay with this. And so, again, we don't know how bad this is. It sounds bad, but if someone's going to get hurt, you'd prefer it obviously to be now than late in the season. And let's be honest, we got Cory Perry for the playoffs. So if he could be available for at least then, we're talking kind of worst case scenario, then okay, hopefully that's not the case. Like I said, I hope it's just he's going to have to miss a few weeks of training camp. Maybe he doesn't play in the preseason, but he's ready to go at least some point early in the regular season. That's my hope because, like I said, anytime someone has to get in a wheelchair, it's just, I mean, I have never heard of a hockey player being put in a wheelchair. And I don't think this has anything to do with his age, by the way. I know he's 40, but Cory Perry has been a very durable player throughout his career. And lately he has been very durable. He doesn't miss games. So I don't think this has anything to do whatsoever with his age. If in fact he got hurt, I just think it was a freak occurrence. Again, watching them go through the skating and the drills, there was no physical play to speak of, and understandably so, because of this, no one wants to get hurt. There's no hitting, there's no rough stuff. It's just, skating and, again, like getting the legs going. So I would be shocked if it turns out that somehow he was hit and got hurt. But look, they're on skates, they're cutting, they're stopping and starting. And sometimes things happen. Maybe his skate gets caught in a rut and he gets twisted up. So obviously we'll have more, hopefully we'll have more details on this by our next show on Monday. And then we can get into, once we maybe have an idea of how long he might be out for, get into how does this affect the Kings lineup, who are players that could replace him on that fourth line, so on and so forth. It's too early to get into that at this point. But again, it is disappointing to hear that Cory Perry has gone down with what appears to be a serious lower body injury. And I'm not an NBA guy, but anytime I think of a player going off in a wheelchair, I think of Paul Pierce. If you know that story, turns out he was just fine. So I'm hoping that this is Paul Pierce 2.0, but we'll see. We'll hopefully have an update. And if you're on social media, certainly if I hear or see anything, I will be updating any information we get on Cory Perry there as well. All right, this is a fan feedback show. I do want to get into a couple emails here before we take a quick break. But we also have some information coming up about the weekend's Golden State rookie faceoff as well down in Irvine. So stick around at the end of the show for that as well. Our first email comes from Michael Tucci. He is in Long Beach, and he says, I meant to send you this email weeks ago, and I'm finally making time to compose it now. Is Kempe worth $10 million? Absolutely. Juice has earned it, and I'd rather see him in a Kings jersey than any other. If Ken Holland can't get this deal done, he'll probably have the shortest tenure as a Kings GM in franchise history, possibly NHL history. I very much enjoyed your interview with Mike Fuda since it brought in a fresh perspective. I'm just spitballing here, but I think Kopitar's retirement might depend on Byfield's season. I'm more than likely wrong or thinking with a sentimental heart, but I see the Kings as an extension of Kopi's family. And if Byfield has an outstanding season, it might give Kopitar a reassurance that the organization is in good hands and he can retire. Obviously, he will still maintain a relationship with the Kings organization when he's done playing, I hope. Lastly, Mr. Cory Perry, if he can teach these young players how to bring antagonistic grit, for a moment I froze on that word, antagonistic grit type of play to the ice, I'm all for it. To paraphrase Bart Simpson, quote, to see the Kings get to the Stanley Cup final, I would root for the devil himself, end quote. Go Kings, go. And that was Michael Tucci in Long Beach. Yeah, I think the quote from Bart was, to go to Duff Gardens, I'd ride with Satan himself, which was an amusement park in The Simpsons. Anyway, yeah, certainly, Michael, agree with you 100% on Kempe getting $10 million or thereabouts. Glad you enjoyed the Mike Fuda conversation. I hear where you're coming from, I guess, on the, if Kopitar thinks the team's in a good place, Byfield takes over as the number one center, maybe he feels that he could step away, leaving the team, in a good place, I guess, but he'd still be, I think Kopitar still is going to have some big skates to fill. I mean, certainly his leadership and all that, but again, top six centers don't just fall off the trees or whatever. So that's going to be a hole that the Kings will have to fill, whether it's this year or next year. And you talk about Cory Perry, obviously the news about that certainly is concerning. Our next email comes from Billy and Desi in the IE, Rialto. Says, been a while since we wrote in, but always everyday listeners, brother. A listener in the past week's show suggested we should call the Crypto Arena by a different name. Well, we and friends have always called it the Kingdome. We went to game 1 of the playoffs, and they had a fan fest thingy before the game to get some merch and take pics with Bailey. They also had a booth where you would be able to create your own sign and bring it to the game. We wrote on ours, "Welcome to the Kingdom." When they showed Desi holding up the sign on the Jumbotron, which was cool. Unfortunately, I was in the bathroom when they did. I never stopped hearing about that one. Anyway, want to throw our suggestion in the rink for listeners. Here's my question. I live in the IE, further away from LA, so there's not many sports bars out here supporting the Kings. A lot of time we have to request to have the game put on. Do you know of any sports bars where Kings fans usually congregate? Sucks when you score and you're the only ones cheering in the bar. Thanks, Eddie. And always keep up the great work. Go Kings, go. Go Rain, go. Billy and Desi in Rialto. Well, guys, I know that there is kind of a Kings bar in the South Bay area, which I don't know exactly where it is, so I shouldn't say. But I'll do a little research on that and see if I can come up with something. And I think it's probably better for our audience to chime in on that. Do you guys know of any Kings bars that do watch parties for games that are obviously in the area? So if you have any info on that, I'm always at the games for the most part, the home games, obviously. So I don't go to a lot of watch parties, although there is talk of having a Locked On LA Kings watch party. We just need to find a place. So if you know of some places that host Kings watch parties, I know the Kings do some of this sometimes, as far as, like their ice crew and stuff going out to places. But if you know of a place that does Kings watch parties, or if you want to suggest a place somewhere in the South Bay that you think would be a good place to host a watch party, please let me know. LockedOnEddie@gmail.com. All right, some Kings fans are insisting that Connor McDavid could still come to LA. We'll talk about that next. You're on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com. You'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Our next email comes from Zach in Victorville. He says, just going off your last fan feedback show, you mentioned there was no evidence that Connor McDavid would sign with LA. Well, there was a GQ Sports interview with him and Wayne Gretzky where he mentions his favorite spot to vacation is Los Angeles. Not suggesting that because of that video, that's where he would prefer to sign, just assuming a good amount of fans maybe saw that video and ran with it. But who knows? Anything is possible. I would love to see him or Jack Eichel come to LA. Thanks for giving me something to listen to while at work. Keep up the great work. That is Zach in Victorville. I will say this about Connor McDavid. He had some comments recently that made me open my eyes a bit. I've always thought he was going to re-sign with the Oilers. I thought it would be a short-term deal, give him an option in a couple of years to get out of there if they're not cup contenders anymore. And I think he might be on the move this offseason. I can't imagine there's any way the Oilers would trade him, because I think worst case scenario that they would say, screw it, we're all in this year then, and we're going for the cup in Connor McDavid's last year. We're not going to trade Connor McDavid when we have a chance to win a cup this year. But just some of his comments about saying he's taking his time, all options are on the table. It's almost like he's kind of setting things up to where if he were to leave, it wouldn't be this shocking, oh my God, I can't believe this has come out of nowhere thing. So I don't understand why he hasn't signed with Edmonton. I don't know why he's taking his time with this. I got to believe he knows exactly what he wants, and the Oilers will give him exactly what he wants. So it's getting very interesting with Connor McDavid. And I will say, I don't think just because he said he loves vacationing in LA that that necessarily would mean he'd want to play here. Maybe he just likes visiting and taking his off time here. But I don't think that's nothing. I'll be honest with you. I think him saying that he loves the vacation in LA, and I watched the interview. He even said, nobody knows who you are there. It was kind of almost a throwaway comment, but he's right. If Connor McDavid came to LA, certainly a certain segment of the population would know him, but by and large, he can walk around in LA and most people aren't going to know who he is. That's just the truth. In Edmonton, everyone knows who he is. So maybe he's getting a little tired of that. But ultimately, I think he wants to win first and foremost. If he thinks he can do that in Edmonton, and that gives him the better shot, he'll stay there. But it is getting very interesting, I will admit. Gary in Northridge says, hey, Eddie, I know you have been down on the Connor McDavid to LA talk. I have to say I mostly agree with you, but what about Wild star Kirill Kaprizov? He just turned down the biggest contract in NHL history, and it looks like he might get traded. What do you think of the Kings getting him? Is it wild to think that he and McDavid could be on other teams soon? Thanks for all you do. And that was Gary in Northridge. Yeah, it's one of the biggest stories other than Connor McDavid in the NHL right now. If you didn't hear, maybe if you're just, locked in on, football season or King stuff, Minnesota Wild star Kirill Kaprizov, who is like Connor McDavid, who's like Adrian Kempe, who will be a free agent at the end of this coming season, turned down the richest contract in NHL history. The Wild offered him $16 million a year, $2 million more than the current highest paid player per year, Leon Draisaitl. $128 million 8-year contract. He said, no thanks. So I don't see him being a fit for the Kings. I know that might sound crazy to say. He's a great player. You, of course, would love to have a player like that on your team. But for the Kings to trade for him, they'd have to give up a ton. And I don't think you do that, frankly, for a winger. I think you do it for a center. Maybe you do it for an elite, top defenseman. But I don't think you do that for a winger, frankly. I don't think you give up a Quentin Byfield, for example, to get an elite winger. You need centers. So I don't see him being a fit. And I think if the Wild were to trade him to LA, Byfield would have to be involved in that. And that's just not going to happen. As far as signing him after this year as a free agent, again, if apparently he wants more than $16 million. Do you want to pay that for a winger who has never been to a Stanley Cup final, who's never won a Hart Trophy, who's never won a scoring title? I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a really good player, and I think $16 million is a very fair deal. So we'll see where that goes as well. That one's pretty crazy. But I don't see him being a fit in LA because I don't think you give up the farm for an elite winger, even one as good as him, in my opinion, because you probably have to give up your elite center to get him in return. Bill in Winnetka checking in. He says, on Blake Bolden, good to see her as an analyst. She has cogent observations on things that I hadn't heard before, so I want to hear more of her. Her voice has a tendency to get lost in the crowd noise, but it is entirely fixable. I remember her first on-screen appearance. She wore purple. That was pretty bold. And to use a Project Runway phase, it popped. That's a good thing. Both sharp and professional. I think my wife is literally watching Project Runway right now. I'm not even kidding you in the next room. He also says, on Alex Faust, I also thought Alex was good. I think the Kings had to piss off someone. I won't say a Faustian bargain, and it turned out to be Alex. I noticed towards the end of Alex's reign, he would occasionally use negative space. He would pause a beat or two before describing the play, letting it play unfold first. Kind of a mini Scullyism thing. Think of in Scully, extended pause after Kirk Gibson's famous home run. And that was Bill in Winnetka. If you did not hear, he's referring to the LA Kings new broadcast lineup. It was made official. We talked about it recently. Former longtime St. Louis Blues broadcaster John Kelly has in fact been hired as the Kings' new TV play-by-play man. Jim Fox will be the lead analyst. He will occasionally be joined, this was a bit of a surprise, by former Kings Tony Granato and Ray Ferraro. Granato has been doing stuff for the NHL Network. Ferraro has done, I think he's been doing ESPN. So those are a couple of pretty seasoned broadcasters, former Kings. coming back to occasionally be a part of the broadcast. That's interesting. Jarrett Stoll and Blake Bolden will be also on the broadcast team. Josh Schaefer is doing the radio play-by-play with Daryl Evans, and Patrick O'Neill and Carlin Baith also will be part of the broadcast as well. So interesting. John Kelly is officially on board now, and Tony Granato and Ray Ferraro chipping in as well, joining Jim Fox. So very interesting goings on as far as the Kings broadcast crew for next season. Up next, is Ed in Brea a Ducks fan in disguise? That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you want to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Ed in Brea is usually our closer, but we have a rain report from our guy Don in the San Fernando Valley. So he's going to close out this show, but we also have some information coming up about how you can watch the rookie tournament this weekend, at least I think. We'll get to that in a minute, but Ed says, saw your goalie video and was waiting for this so I can put my opinion on since I am one goalie and the position I pay attention to the most. So I have to disagree with your goaltending rankings. We do not have the best goalie tandem or goalie in the division. Much as I admire our goalie tandem and Kemper's Vezina season, that sadly belongs to our rivals, the Anaheim Ducks. Okay, I'm stopping this email. I have joked that Ed in Brea is a covert Ducks fan. And I'm seriously wondering if he isn't a Ducks fan just kind of trolling all of us, because he talks so glowingly about the Ducks, who suck. And he told me last year how they were going to be in the playoffs. They weren't. And the Kings were going to miss the playoffs. They didn't. So I will tell you this. If I had never met Ed in Brea in person, I would be 100% convinced he was actually a Ducks fan trolling all of us. But I've seen him at Kings games, and he literally is wearing a crown. So if he is a covert Ducks fan, he is going the lengths to pull off this ruse. But I cannot believe this is utter nonsense, Ed. He continues. Before I get to my reason, my goalie rankings for the teams are at number 8, San Jose, number 7, Edmonton, number 6, Vegas, number 5, Seattle, number 4, the Kings, 3, Vancouver, 2, Calgary, 1, Anaheim. Darcy Kemper is a good goalie, but the reason why he had a Vezina numbers last season was the Kings' defense giving up the fewest shots. My goalie individual rankings are 10, Ville Husso, 9, Yaroslav Askarov, 8, Kevin Lankin, and 7, Calvin Pickard, 6, Stuart Skinner, 5, Aiden Hill, 4, Joseph Woll, 3, Darcy Kemper, 2, Thatcher Demko, and number 1, Lucas Dostal of the Ducks. Dostal is the best goalie in the division. Sadly, he's the next Dominik Hasek as a fellow Czech. It's going to take more than that. He was top 3 in save above expected, meaning he is Hasek and quick status. Meaning, with a bad defense, he made saves that were high quality. Also, congrats to John Kelly, the former St. Louis Blues play-by-play announcer, to be the next Kings guy. Very experienced, and the reason why he got the job is maybe the Blues had the same TV deal the Kings have with the FanDuel network. And that was from Ed, the Ducks fan in Brea. All right, I added that Ducks fan part. Okay, so I've said many times I am not an analytics guy, but to see what Ed was talking about, I went to a site called moneypuck.com, clicked on the goalie section, and according to moneypuck.com, goals saved above expected. You know who the top goalie was in the Pacific Division? It was not Lucas Dostal. It was a man named Darcy Kemper at 22.5. Then Joey Decord, then John Gibson, then Aiden Hill, and then Lucas Dostal. So, according to my research, you are 100% wrong, Ed. You are wrong. All right, Don in the San Fernando Valley checking in. He's going to be our Ontario Reign fan correspondent during the season. I don't have the time to watch the Reign games, and he does. I think he's a season ticket holder, or maybe he watches them on streaming. I don't know. But Don volunteered to check in every week and give us his insights into what the Ontario Reign are doing, which I greatly appreciate. So hopefully, I told him this is not a job. If you don't feel like doing it, you don't have to, but he says he wants to do it, so we're going to do it. So this is Don in San Fernando Valley's first Reign report of the season. He says, as most Kings fans know, none of our current prospects in Ontario are star types, as in top line forwards or first pair defenseman prospects. If Liam Greentree is permitted to play in the AHL this season, he would be our only top flight prospect with the Reign. But that's an unknown at this time, and we can count on Eddie to let us know as soon as it's decided one way or another. I agree with you, Eddie. Greentree has done all he can in the junior level. He seems ready for the AHL, but who knows what the powers that be will decide. But even without a potential impact player candidate like Greentree, we have some very solid talent in the organization. I have two tiers of Kings prospects that I will be watching most closely. Here are the main players I'll be watching this season: Eric Portillo, Angus Booth, Kirill Kirsanov, and Cohen Ziemer. Under a best case scenario for each player in my current one tier, these guys could possibly become solid middle of the lineup NHL players. And my second tier, newer guys, young veteran NHLers, lower draft picks, etc., who might seem like longer shots at this point or lesser known, but still have a chance to make it or could emerge this season as hotter prospects if they perform well, are Francesco Pinelli, Jakub Dvorak, Jared Wright, Atu Jemson, and Kenny Connors. Is it possible that a player yet unmentioned may emerge from the shadows to play some standout hockey, or their stock could shoot up? Fourth round pick Angus Booth did that last year, and that's why he's in a number one tier prospect this season, in my opinion. The Ontario Reign of other players who might be on the cusp, like Jeff Malott or Taylor Ward or others, but it's unlikely they'll be called up again, barring extreme emergencies. So I won't spend much time talking about those guys. My next report will be on the four players in the top tier. It will include specific player information, specific examples, and descriptions of their past play for the Reign. Once the season starts, I will report on how all these guys are doing, for better or worse, from game to game. Of course, I am hoping that some player will emerge from relative obscurity to become a significant prospect for the Kings. Maybe more than one. I can dream. See you next report. And that was some good stuff from our guy Don in the San Fernando Valley. He's going to be our Ontario Reign fan correspondent this season. All right, I wanted to announce this weekend, the LA Kings rookies are playing in the Golden State Rookie Faceoff down in Irvine at Great Ice Park or Great Park Ice or whatever it is. It's a really cool facility. I don't mean to make fun of it, but I can't ever remember the name of it. Anyway, they're playing on Saturday against the Sharks, 1 p.m., Sunday against the Ducks, 1 p.m. I'll be out there for the game on Saturday against the Sharks. If you're going to be out there and you want to say hi, please let me know. But the games, if you're out of the area or you can't be there and you want to check this out, the games are going to be broadcast. Now, here's the information. According to the Kings, it'll be on SLVR Sports and Entertainment on Samsung TV Plus, channel 2328. I will repeat that because it's a lot. SLVR Sports and Entertainment on Samsung TV Plus, channel 2328. SLRB is accessible across Samsung devices and Android devices through Google Play. That's the information. I don't get it. I don't know why. Just stream it on the website, Kings. Put it on the YouTube page. Put it on your YouTube page. Put it on lakings.com. Let us click on it and watch it. I don't know what this is. It sounds, frankly, very complicated. I've never heard of any of these things. Hopefully, if you want to watch this on Saturday, you go to lakings.com and there's a link there for you to watch it. I don't know what to tell you. That's the information they put out on social media. Why they seemingly are making this very complicated, I don't know. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully, like I said, you want to watch, go to lakings.com. There's a link there to watch it on Saturday and Sunday. I hope. If not, then this is a dumb move. And I'll complain about it if it turns out to be the case. But that's the information. I gave it to you. I don't completely understand all of it, to be totally honest with you, but there it is. I hope if you want to watch the game, it is easy to do so. Thank you to everyone who took the time to email for this show. Our fan feedback show literally is not possible without your participation. So thank you for all of you. As I just went into my John Kelly impression there. Thank you for your participation. If you want to get an email in for a future feedback show or for any other reason, lockedoneddie@gmail.com is the email address, EDDIE. We'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. And if you want some extra coverage of the LA Kings, like interview with Liam Greentree or breaking news reaction just after it happens, as has been the case, go to LA Kings or email me at lakingsextra@gmail.com, lakingsextra@gmail.com if you would like some exclusive content other than this show. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.